She just wanted to relive a tradition that once meant everything. Sitting alone in the cinema, lost in memories, she did not expect company, much less someone who knew exactly where to find her and what to say. A story about reunions, unspoken promises, and a love that survives time, silence, and distance. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. The summer of 1982 carried with it the sweet aroma of popsicles melting under the scorching sun, and the sound of children playing in the streets until dusk. In a quiet neighborhood of houses, with well-kept gardens and white picket fences, two families shared more than just the low wall that separated their backyards. The Wilsons and the Montgomerys shared the friendship of their children, a bond as natural as the sunrise. Sharon Wilson, with her brown hair always tied back in messy ponytails and her constantly scraped knees, had known Jeremy Montgomery for as long as she could remember. There wasn't a single memory of her childhood that didn't include the boy with blue eyes and an easy smile who lived next door. On that Sunday afternoon, while the adults prepared a barbecue in the Wilsons' backyard, Jeremy was trying to balance himself on the skateboard he had received for his birthday. "You have to bend your knees like this, Sharon," he explained, demonstrating the move with a confidence only 10-year-old boys possess, even when they don't exactly know what they're doing. Sharon, as determined as ever, placed one foot on the skateboard, causing it to slide away before she could position the other. "This is harder than it looks in the movies," she complained, blowing a lock of hair that had fallen over her face. "Everything is harder than it looks in the movies," replied Jeremy with the wisdom he inherited from his father. "But you'll get it. You just need practice." After several attempts and a few falls that resulted in yet another scratch for Sharon's collection, she finally managed to slide a few meters without falling. Her face lit up with a smile that made every moment of frustration worthwhile. "Your turn to teach me something," Jeremy proposed, as they shared a packet of chips in the shade of the big tree in the backyard. "I can whistle," Sharon said proudly, putting her fingers in her mouth and producing a sharp and prolonged sound that made Mrs. Montgomery look in her direction with a raised eyebrow. She spent the entire afternoon trying to teach Jeremy how to position his fingers correctly, laughing at the funny faces he made while trying, unsuccessfully, to reproduce the whistle. That was just one of the countless moments that wove the tapestry of their friendship. Afternoons watching cartoons on TV, sharing ice creams in the summer, building blanket forts on winter nights, and trading stickers at school. At night, after their parents sent them to bed, communication continued through the walkie-talkies they received for Christmas. The limited range was more than enough to cover the distance between their windows. "Sharon, say goodnight to Jeremy, turn off the walkie-talkie and go to sleep. You can talk in the morning at school," Mrs. Wilson would say almost every night after hearing whispers and giggles coming from her daughter's room. "Good night, Jeremy," Sharon would say into the device, yawning. "Good evening, Sharon. Dream of aliens and spaceships," he replied, referencing the science fiction movie they had recently watched that had fascinated them. The years passed like pages of a book read quickly. Their childhood, filled with games of tag and hide and seek, gave way to adolescence with its complexities and discoveries. The Walkman replaced dolls and toy cars, and science fiction movies became their shared passion. In 1988, when a science fiction film premiered, Jeremy and Sharon were among the first in line at the local cinema. At 15, they felt grown up enough to watch the movie without their parents, even if Sharon hid her face in Jeremy's shoulder during the scarier scenes. "We can just buy one large bucket of popcorn. We'll save money," Jeremy suggested while they were in line. It was the beginning of a tradition. With each new release of the series, or any other science fiction film that interested them, they shared a single bucket of popcorn, invariably ending in a playful argument about who had eaten more. "You always pick the popcorn from the bottom, which is the most buttery," Sharon accused. "And you always wait for me to be distracted by the movie to grab more," Jeremy retorted, with a smile that left no doubt about how much he cherished those moments. Time seemed suspended during those afternoons at the cinema, where the outside world disappeared, and there were only the two of them, the silver screen, and stories of distant worlds that fueled their dreams and imagination. When 18 years arrived, along with the decisions about the future after high school, reality knocked at the door like an unwelcome visitor. Jeremy, always fascinated by technology and computers, received the opportunity to study in another country where his aunt lived and could offer support. Sharon, on the other hand, had secured a scholarship to study business administration at a university on the other side of the country. The fate that had kept them together for so long now seemed determined to separate them. In June 1991, on the eve of Jeremy's departure, the fifth film of the science fiction saga was in theatres. It was as if the universe was offering them one last chance to experience their favourite tradition. "We have to go," said Jeremy, holding the newspaper with the cinema showtimes. "It's our perfect farewell ritual." The cinema was full, but they managed to get their usual seats in the middle of the room. The bucket of popcorn between them seemed heavier that night, laden not just with corn and butter, but with years of memories and an uncertain future. During the movie, their fingers met several times while reaching for popcorn, but neither of them commented or withdrew their hand quickly as they used to, blushing. Instead, there was hesitation, a silent acknowledgement that something was changing between them. As they left the cinema, they walked slowly through the streets illuminated by streetlights, animatedly discussing the scenes from the movie, postponing the inevitable moment of the real farewell. Eventually, they stopped walking. They were in front of Sharon's house, under the same tree where they had shared so many moments. Then the silence settled between them, as heavy as a wet blanket. The reality they had been avoiding for weeks finally materialized in the space between their bodies. "I will miss you every day, Sharon," Jeremy said, his voice faltering slightly. Sharon felt a lump in her throat and tears threatening to escape her eyes. "I will too, Jeremy. You've always been in my life. Who am I going to watch the upcoming movie releases with?" Jeremy took a step forward, closing the distance between them. "We will be apart only for a while, and then we will never be separated again," he said with a conviction that made Sharon's heart skip a beat. Then, with a gentleness that contrasted with the whirlwind of emotions inside him, Jeremy leaned in and touched Sharon's lips with his own. A timid, almost innocent kiss, but laden with unspoken promises and feelings kept for years. When they parted, Sharon saw a reflection of her own confusion and hope in Jeremy's eyes. What was once just friendship now had a new name, a new taste, a new dimension that both would have to explore, even from a distance. The next morning, Sharon watched from her bedroom window the activity at the neighbouring house. The taxi waited at the curb while Jeremy's parents helped load the suitcases into the trunk. Her heart felt as heavy as lead. It was then that the familiar static of the walkie-talkie broke the silence of her room. "Sharon, meet me in the backyard," came Jeremy's voice, bringing a wave of nostalgia from simpler times. She ran downstairs and crossed the garden to the point where the two properties met, a place that had always been a no-man's land, belonging equally to both. Jeremy was already there, holding something in his hands. As she approached, he extended a small package wrapped in brown paper. "Open it after I'm gone," he requested. Sharon nodded, unable to speak. Instead of words, she threw herself into his arms, breathing in his familiar scent, memorizing the feeling of being wrapped in his embrace. "I'll write," Jeremy promised against her hair. "And the next time we see each other, we'll have so much to tell each other." "Promise you won't find anyone better to share popcorn with at the movies?" Sharon asked, trying to sound playful despite the tears. "Impossible," he replied, smiling. "No one argues about who ate more popcorn as well as you do." A final kiss, longer than the one the night before, sealed the promise. Then he was gone, leaving behind half of Sharon's heart and a package that she would later discover contained a cassette tape with his favourite songs and a note. "To listen to when the stars seem too far away. They are the same ones I see from here. J." In the months that followed, letters crossed oceans, bringing news of new lives being built in different places. Sharon wrote about her adjustment to university, the new friendships she made, how she missed her mother's cooking. Jeremy talked about the new country, how technology was advancing rapidly, his fascination with the first personal computers that were becoming accessible. "Someday, I'm sure we'll be able to talk instantly through these computers, no matter where we are," he wrote in a letter. "Imagine not having to wait weeks for news." But as the semesters passed, the letters became less frequent. Life took its relentless course, filling the days with new responsibilities and challenges that left little room for nostalgia. During the holidays, Sharon returned to her parents' house, always with the secret hope of seeing Jeremy. But he was never there. "I think his parents went there to visit him," Mrs. Wilson would say, noticing the disappointment on her daughter's face. Eventually the letters stopped completely. Adulthood, with all its complications and demands, had definitively set in. 4 years passed like a breath. It was 1995, and Sharon, now a graduate, had returned to her hometown. She got a job at a local bank and shared an apartment with a work colleague, Amanda. "Do you want to go to the cinema tonight? That new horror movie everyone's talking about has premiered," invited Amanda on a Friday, while they tidied up the small kitchen after dinner. "I can't. Actually, there's another movie I want to see," replied Sharon, a little hesitant. It was the new film of the science fiction saga, released after years of waiting. None of her new friends shared her passion for science fiction, so she had decided to go alone, carrying with her the weight of memories and a hint of melancholy. The cinema was the same as years ago, although it had now undergone renovation and offered more comfortable seats. Sharon bought a medium bucket of popcorn. She hadn't bought a large one since Jeremy left, and found a spot in the middle of the theatre, as she always preferred. The movie had started about 5 minutes ago when someone sat down in the empty seat next to him. Before he could turn to see who it was, he felt the popcorn bucket being gently pulled from his hands. "You shouldn't have come to watch this movie without me." The voice, deeper than he remembered but unmistakably familiar, made his heart stop for a moment before racing in his chest. Jeremy was there, more mature, with shorter hair and thin-framed glasses that gave him an intellectual look, but with the same smile that had filled his dreams for years. "You should buy your own popcorn and stay quiet so I can watch my movie," she joked, while her eyes, incapable of lying, revealed the pure joy she felt. They barely paid attention to the movie. In whispers, they exchanged fragments of their lives during the years of separation. Jeremy talked about his job at a technology company that had brought him back, how he always planned to return, how he found out through her parents that he would be back in town. "I heard today was the premiere and thought, maybe, just maybe," he said, leaving the sentence unfinished. "I never stopped hoping," Sharon replied, the truth escaping before she could hold it back. When the lights came on and the credits began to roll, they remained seated, as if they feared the magic would break once they left. "What did we think of the movie?" Jeremy asked. Sharon smiled, realizing she couldn't give an honest opinion about something she had hardly seen. "I think we need to watch it again. Together. After dinner, perhaps." "It's a date," Jeremy confirmed, intertwining his fingers with hers as they walked out of the cinema, back to a future that somehow had always been written in the stars they so admired on the screens. 3 years later, in 1998, Jeremy and Sharon Montgomery said, "I do," under a starry sky projected onto the ceiling of a hall decorated with subtle references to the movies that marked their story. Instead of rice, the guests threw popcorn as the couple set out for their new life, finally together, as destiny and the Force always intended. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.